Hey there, welcome to Carnell Knowledge. My name is Tom Carnell. It's 420, baby. So we're gonna do the show. I don't even know what that means anymore. We're gonna do the show. If you aren't familiar with the show, it is a show that I put up on YouTube 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On every episode, I review / recommend 5 movies, a book, and 5 records of various different genres, and then once in a while on the weekends, seems a lot pretty regularly now on Saturdays, I release a special episode that doesn't fit in with that format. It usually focuses on one thing. I've done one on progressive rock. I'm getting ready to do one on comic books and books that influenced me and all that other kind of thing. If you don't know who I am, I was a buyer for Tower Records for about 20 years. I published Carpet Nocta magazine in the 90s, which was a dark art publication in which we showcased a lot of artists and interviewed a lot of luminaries in their field. And then I wrote for Fangoria Dread Central for about 15 years, and then did a lot of podcasts, and now I'm an author. You can go to Amazon, pick up my books. There's lots of short story collections, a couple novels, some interview books, that kind of a thing. Please watch this video to the end. It really helps me out. Also, in the description of the video down there, I have included links to either trailer films, full movies on the films, Amazon page for the book, so you can pick it up if it interests you. And then I've also included YouTube playlists for all of the records. So don't just take my word for it. Go down there and listen for yourself and decide if it's something you want to add to your playlists or your record collection or any of that other stuff. Go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'm happy I get back to people pretty quickly. And if you want to talk about something offline, go ahead and email me at tomcarnell@gmail.com. So, with that out of the way, let's talk movies. The first movie that I'm going to talk about is a documentary. It's directed by Naomi Holwill, who, you know, I looked at her IMDb and man alive, she's got some really cool stuff. This one is called Fascism on a Thread, the Strange Story of Nazi-Sploitation Cinema. It stars actually just shows clips of Helmut Berger, Dirk Bogarde, and then there are interviews with Diane Thorne. So if you don't know what Nazi-sploitation is, it's kind of like blaxploitation or hicksploitation, or what it is exploitation films that deal with a specific subject. For some reason, back in the 60s and 70s, man, they were really focused on a lot of things, and some of it were films about the Nazi regime. Typified, if I had to give one title that would let you know what I'm talking about, it would probably be Diane Thorne's She-Wolf, or Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS. The doc is very, very detailed. What I wrote down was a dark backwater of exploitation cinema. It's usually about torture. It's not quite torture porn, but it's close. And as abhorrent as the subject matter is, I think it's important to understand why Nazi-sploitation was a thing, and what went into its creation and the making of the films, because there was a number of them. And this parallels a lot of the stuff that's sort of happening today. They talk at one point about the machismo of certain politicians who weren't macho at all, but they played that up pretty well, and boy, does that sound familiar. Overall, I'm going to say that it is a fascinating documentary. I think it's important to understand that it was a thing, but I fully understand if that whole subject matter is something you want to talk about or look into. But I thought it was important because, again, why did this thing happen when it happened, and why did it happen in such abundance? So again, Fascism on a Thread. I saw it on Tubi, so you can find it there. It's not going to cost you anything. And again, it's got its moments that remind you of again why it was a thing. let's move on. We're going on our next film, 1944. It's called Bluebeard. It was directed by Edgar G. Ulmer, who directed The Black Cat. Stars the great John Carradine, Gene Parker, who was in Little Women and The Gunfighter, and Niels Astley, who is in The Man in Half Moon Street. So Bluebeard, the subject of Bluebeard has sort of become like, oh, there was this guy that they called Bluebeard that would wed women or court women only to kill them. And this isn't that. Instead, it uses the term Bluebeard as sort of an umbrella term for men who do that kind of thing, who meet vulnerable women, who court them, who woo them, and then get into a relationship for a short period of time, and then ultimately decide that they're better off, he's better off with them out of the picture. And the most expedient way to do that is to kill them. In this one, in Paris, an artist hires portrait models, and after he finishes their portraits, he strangles them. It's Carradine's favorite of all of his films, and he's a young man in this, and he's a very dashing young man. His wife was in it, it was his, Sonia Sorel. She was his wife for about 12 years. It has a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which I found kind of odd. It's a little melodramatic, but again, it's 1944. What do you expect? But overall, I found the film pretty engaging. More than a little creepy, fairly satisfying in its attempts to be a mystery crime drama. The acting is solid. Carradine is great in it. And the use of puppets, he's a puppeteer, not quite an artist. He is an artist, but he's mostly makes his money from puppeteering, is delightful. It has nothing to do with the overall arc of the film, but they're very well handled and they're very kind of cool looking. I enjoyed it. Down there, I included a link to the entire film. It's up on YouTube. You can see it for free. Yeah, it's like I say, it's 1944. It looks like 1944. It plays like 1944. But it's a fine little crime potboiler. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Our next movie, 1975. This one's kind of cool. I'm going to screw up the title, but here we go. Wakai Kizoku-Tachi 13 Kaiden no Maki, aka 13 Steps of Maki, the Young Aristocrats. It's directed by Makoto Naito, who did the film Hell's Angels, Crimson Roar. It stars Etsuko Shihomi, who was in the Sister Street Fighter films, Misa Ohara and Hiroshi Nawa, who was in a film that I really am I'm gonna cover this one, called 3 Seconds Before the Explosion. That's a great Japanese crime Yakuza film. So what it basically is that the lead actress plays Maki, who's the leader of a female gang that fights for justice, kinda. But she runs afoul of a mob boss's daughter, and gets framed and gets sent to prison. Then she sort of shows the prison client, the prisoners, that she's kind of a badass and deserves their respect. And then they help her escape, and then she's off to wreak justice. It's almost a girl gang movie. That was a big thing back in Japan in the 60s. And it's very nearly a woman in prison film, which we've talked about before with things like The Big Dollhouse and The Big Birdcage. Nearly nonstop action. There's nudity. There's sleaze in a good way. And the opening scene sets the tone. The film opens on a woman that has run afoul of the gang, and she's tied to a railroad tracks with her legs spread and facing the camera. And that kind of sets the tone. There's a great score by Shinjuku Kikuchi, whose music was used in the Kill Bill films. And it's essentially girl gangs versus the Yakuza meets a Pinku film. Maki dresses like Racer X from Speed Racer. She's got this, everything she has a number 13 on her chest. And again, at that point, her kicking and punching and all of her martial arts are right out of the Sonny Chiba school. And The only real issue that I have in all of this is that they jump back and forth between Maki doing violent stuff and being a real aggressor to visiting elderly people in her neighborhood and bringing them sake and being such a sweet girl that you think like the entire gang should be selling Girl Scout cookies rather than what they're doing. I do think that this film is a little better than the Sister Street Fighter films, and it reminded me of there's another girl gang movie called Stray Cat Rock. It's enjoyable. It's definitely sleazy. While she's in prison, her gang gets brought in by the mob boss and addicted to drugs and into prostitution and all this stuff. But of course, Maki comes back and they all rally to the end. And it's just great fun. If you know those kinds of films, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, this is a great entry point to get into them. Let's see, our next film, 1970. The great Hammer director Roy Ward Baker doing The Vampire Lovers. Stars Ingrid Pitt, who is in The Wicker Man and Countess Dracula, the great Ingrid Pitt. Pippa Steele, who is in the British TV show UFO, and for like a second and a half, Peter Cushing. Synopsis goes as follows. Seductive vampire Carmilla Karnstein and her family target the beautiful and rich in the remote area of a late 18th century Germany. It's totally there. It's part of the Karnstein trilogy, being The Vampire Lovers in 1970, Lust for a Vampire, which we've covered here before, in 1971, and then a movie called Twins of Evil that's later that same year. It's definitely taken from Sheridan Le Fanu's Carmilla. It is the first Hammer film to feature nudity, and it's a Hammer film from stem to stern. It's very lavish sets, very beautiful costumes, wonderful cinematography. I found it interesting that Ingrid Pitt in an interview said that she wasn't aware in making the film of the lesbianic overtones of the thing. Well, first of all, Carmilla is a classic of that sort of sub-genre. And in every scene that she's in a room with another woman, she's putting the make on her. The vampire doesn't bite her here in the neck, but bites her here lower on the chest. But, you know, it's an Ingrid Pitt film. And, you know, everything's cut down to here. And she's very beautiful and very alluring. And if that kind of thing is something that you like, especially specifically the Karnstein trilogy, this is a great one. Again, and it's the first one, so you can go from here to Lust for a Vampire to Twins of Evil. Overall, I found it a novel little time waster. Not particularly great, but it was fun. And if you know the lesbian vampire is your thing, you're going to love this film a lot. I did like it. I did enjoy it. I thought that it was a fun way to spend an hour and a half late one evening. So yeah, there we go. This is the one I'm going to take a little guff for. You ready? 1998, Stephen Hopkins, who directed Predator 2 and Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Warriors, directed Gary Oldman, William Hurt, Matt LeBlanc, Mimi Rogers, Heather Graham, and Lacey Chabert in a redo of Lost in Space. This movie takes a lot of shit. The synopsis is the Robinson family was going into space to fight for a chance for humanity. Now they are fighting to live long enough to find a way home. So I'm not going to bury the lead on this one. I like the first half of this film. I think the first half of this film is a fine way to roll it out, typified by the takeoff of the Jupiter 2. The Jupiter 2 that comes up into space looks just like the Jupiter 2 from the TV series, and then it explodes, and then you get a much cooler looking ship. Let's see, under trivia, I have written down Dick Tufeld reprises his role as the robot, the Danger Will Robinson thing. Returning cast, Mark Goddard is back, June Lockhart, Marta Kristen, Angela Cartwright. The film was filmed on 12 separate sound stages. That's how big all of this stuff was, and I'm going to get to the halfway point in a second. Sean Patrick Flannery was cast as Don West, but they let him go when they noticed how similar he looked to William Hurt. They didn't want to confuse the audience. If the film did do well, which it didn't, and it got a sequel, I had read that the Robinson family would return to Alpha Prime. However, they discovered that Alpha Prime is already populated with humans because they previously went through a wormhole in the first movie that sends them into the future. There's a whole subplot with Judy Robinson creating a cure for Dr. Smith, who becomes sort of a spider. They've even referred to him in the press kits as Spider Smith. And Penny ends up having the same color changing ability, if you remember Blarp, the monkey that I think they used to have. I'll say this about the film: at 2 hours, it's far too long. It is almost exactly at the midway point when the ship crashes onto the ice planet that the whole thing goes into the toilet. Up until then, you've got a nice rollout. You've got the encounter of the empty spaceship, the invasion of all of the spiders, sort of creatures. And it's my considered opinion that this movie, had it been popular, again, which it wasn't, it sets up Matt LeBlanc as an action star really, really well. The whole scene, it's in the trailer where he raises the gun up and then his helmet kind of clicks over his head. All of that stuff is super cool. And throughout it, he's got funny lines. He's a good sort of wisecracking hero. Typified, I've been saying it all week, and the monkey flips the switch. I enjoyed the first half of this movie, and then boy, what a waste of everybody concerned, everyone in the production, the audience. You might as well, as soon as that ship hits that first piece of a mountain, you can just get up and tune away and get something else, and you'll have a fine time. But man, that ending is such a dog. And that's going to do it for movies. Books this week. The great John Shirley, in 2021, they released a version of his book called, it's a short story collection called The Feverish Stars. Shirley is a legend. He and David Scow are responsible for The Crow, writing the script for The Crow, not the origination of the graphic novel. He's a great writer. This book has an intro from Richard Christian Matheson. In the book, there are short stories that experiment with form and structure, which I appreciated. It is fine. I don't think it's Shirley at his best, but I think that it is definitely a cut above a lot of writers of the time and of today. I did find that a lot of it felt a little like an episode of Black Mirror or Twilight Zone. And as always with short story collection, the good, the bad, and the ugly apply. Some of the stuff is really, really good. Some of it is really, really bad. And some of it is really, really bad. But again, you take your shot, you run with your idea, and you try to do as best as you can. Again, Shirley's a great writer. He's someone you should read. And this is as good a place as any to start. I wish that overall it would have been more solid. Okay, moving on to records. I'm looking at the time. Here's another one that's going to really push the limits of my credibility. 2026, the record is called Petal Rock Black. And the artist is billed as Willow, who we know as Willow Smith. And it's hard to believe that this is the same kid who told us to whip our hair back and forth. I like this record. It's adult sounding. It's adventurous. There are loads of guests on it. Kamasi Washington, George Clinton is on it. Tune Yards is on it. This is way better than it ought to be. It reminded me of things like the more adult sounding Doja Cat, Tame Impala, early Tori Amos, and FKA Twigs. I put the record on thinking, well, this is going to be 45 minutes poorly spent. And about 2 songs in, I was like, I kind of like this. Again, go to the description. You can find the link and you can judge for yourself. But as kooky as the Smith family is, and as kooky as she was growing up, I mean, everyone was kooky when they were growing up, and the fact that they have more money than God that they can throw at a project like this probably explains a lot. But damn it, I put it on, and halfway through I hit repeat, listened to it again, and I found it kind of interesting. And I won't say that I'm now a Willow fan, but if when her next record comes out, I'll definitely pick it up and listen to it. Next one, record, 2024. The band is called Absolute Elsewhere. The record is called Playground. This is very different from their 1976 release, and let me explain that. This is their second record. So they made the record back in the mid to late 70s. Their first record was very harder edged, but then they made this record, and this record is very much prog with a little bit of a modern twist, but it's progressive rock. So they got ready to release it, and then punk happened and new wave happened, and the record sat on a shelf for 40 years. And then they just got around a couple of years ago releasing it. It sounds very 70s and very sort of second wave prog. Reminded me of bands like Pulsar, Clearlight, Apothesi, Pell Mell, Schickfurs and Furling, Secret Oyster, and I always screw this up, Gneidrolog, Gnidrolog. Enjoyable record. The cover art is kind of simplistic and nothing that's going to grab your eye. It's not like Roger Dean or anything, but damn it, I like this record, and that's why I'm recommending it. But my process on all of this is I listen to a lot more than I recommend and review. I have music on from the time I wake up until the time I go to bed. And normally what I do, if something hits my ear, makes me think, oh, that's kind of cool, I should share that. I take a picture of it and have them all in my phone. And then when it comes time to make my notes, that's where I get my list. So it's all the things that stuck out. And this was definitely one of them. Speaking of, our next record, our third record, 2017, the band is called Kotebel, Kotebel. The record is called Cosmology. They're from Spain. They're flute and keyboard driven progressive rock. The music is complex without being abstruse. And it's a lot of like all of the instruments playing the same line. In a weird way, and this isn't on my notes, but it just occurred to me. In a weird way, it reminded me of the Japanese fusion band Cassiopeia, where the entire band is playing these incredibly intricate and sort of stop-starts music, and everyone's hitting their notes, and there's no ringing of cymbals or whatever else. And then over all of that, a little more of the melody line is put. I very much enjoyed this. It reminded me of things like Porcupine Tree, Sanhedrin, Nemo, Minimum Vital, which I covered on an early episode. Pink Floyd, King Crimson. Are we hitting that button? It's great stuff. Nice cover, nice artwork, nice presentation, and the music was swell. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Let's see. For our fourth record is from Denmark, a band called I think it's called SUNBORN, SUNBORN, but there's umlauts over the O. The band has won 4 Danish Grammys. The music is lively and fun. It's jazz, it's fusion, and it's global music. Super complex, super imaginative, very warm, and immune to genre boundaries. That was from their press kit. Reminded me of bands like Ezra Collective, the aforementioned Kamasi Washington, and a great band which I've covered before, Jade Warrior, who I really like. This was a great record. It's modern sounding. It doesn't have that 70s sort of Canterbury feel to it. but thoroughly enjoyable. Again, it stuck out enough that it warranted inclusion, I thought. Yeah, go check it out. I think you'll like it. I did. What can I say? Our last record is from 1993. It's called A Day in the Stark Corner. It's by Mike Van Portfleet and his band Lycia. It's their third record. If you don't know Lycia, they're on Project, Sam Rosenthal's label, and their music is very like apocalyptic landscapes, and it deals a lot with emotional extremes. It was recorded on a 4-track in their home. It's similar to their other record, Ionia. Excuse me. And this is a record that really exudes sort of a gothic-y sadness. They've got a huge gothic audience, and they are, some people don't like them, which I don't get. I mean, I kind of get. They reminded me of things like Soul Eyes Crushing, Autumn's Gray Solace, Black Paper, Blue Girl, a little tiny bit like Love Spirals Downward. They're not as pretty as Love Spirals Downward, but it's kind of Wall of Sound stuff. And years ago, when we were doing the Carpe Noctem, we did a show at a club in San Francisco called A Winter's Gone By, and we had Lycia play. And live, they were every bit as good as they are on the record. They're a great band, and Mike and Tara Van Flower have been doing this for a long, long time, and they deserve more and more accolades than they get, quite frankly. But I think it's good stuff. It may take a listen or two for you to get it, but again, it's very dark, and it's very Wall of Sound, like I say, and it's very melancholic is a good word for that, I guess. I like these guys. I have all their records, and I think that they are fantastic. But again, if you were to listen to them and go, "Oh, I don't like this," I understand, but you don't have to worry about it. Just go into the description and you can go to the playlist and decide for yourself. But please, for my sake, give it a shot. Like don't just hop on there and pop through a song, because you're not going to get it. Put it on, let it play, and preferably like at night, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And that's going to do it for me on a very cloudy 420. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. I hope you're enjoying the specials. Please do me a favor and smash that like and subscribe button, because that's going to help me out. I'm happy that you've made it this far through the video. And be sure to come back on Wednesday for Wednesday's episode, and then also the special episodes that I'm doing on the weekends. If you have any suggestions, please, again, comment below. Let me know what you're listening to. I always love people that turn me on to new music and new movies and that kind of thing. Yeah, and that's going to do it. So until Wednesday, have a good week.